Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Corey Bezyak. Corey is the Vice President of Product Development at Bongo. Corey, welcome to the show.
JP, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're delighted to have you. So, Corey, let's jump straight into it. I'd love to start with a background of yourself in technology. Could you give us a bit of an overview of your journey from where you got started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and take us up to today as the VP of Product Development for Bongo?
Yeah, you bet. And I think that I've been in this industry for about 20 years, and anybody who's been around that long knows that technology has advanced so substantially in that period of time. It's really hard to imagine a scenario 20 years ago where I would end up where I am today. Just the roles that exist and the type of work that we're doing is completely new, and it's reinventing itself on an ongoing basis. Really, it's funny. I started out my senior year of college. I had a marketing degree, so what didn't even have a technology background. And I was looking at the landscape for jobs and where things were evolving, and I saw a lot of people entering into the world of consulting. And that kind of struck a chord with me. The idea of traveling and working with Fortune 100 names, a lot of exciting companies, really struck a chord with me. And so I did some finagling, and I managed to get an IS degree added into my marketing degree, and really kind of ran with that going forward. So that took me to PricewaterhouseCoopers for my first position. And like I said, just 23 years old, out there working with the likes of Procter & Gamble, Sony, Blue Cross Blue Shield, General Motors. And the really exciting thing was that what we were trying to do at the time was establish a web presence for a lot of these organizations that didn't exist. And even though I was this young guy fresh out of college, the people at these major companies didn't have the experience or background in technology or this field, and we were the experts, right? So it was funny being this young guy coming out of college and being able to work with these big companies and really influence what they were doing. But technology wasn't mature at that point. Interesting side notes, working for Procter & Gamble, we helped them build a pet food ordering site focused on veterinary clinics that wanted to prescribe prescription dog food and cat food. And we went through this process. We built this elaborate e-commerce type site for them to use. But at the very end, the last thing it did was it sent a fax to the warehouse to actually fulfill the order. So all the pieces weren't together. We could never imagine doing something like that today. But so we were just starting out, and the technology maturity was so different across the different suppliers and different players in the space that it was really interesting. But yeah, overall, you'll see throughout my career, I've worked for a credit card processing bank. I've worked for a med device compliance company. I've worked for a infrastructure management company. So there's not really a common thread when it comes to industry. Really, a lot of what I do and what I love to do is just looking at complex problems and working with a high quality group of individuals that it didn't matter what the problem was. It was how could we apply the right technology to solve these types of issues. With the Vantiv now, previously Fifth Third Processing Solutions, those credit card companies are required to hang on to billions and billions of records of data. And you could find some really interesting insights there, but the technology space wasn't such that you could really readily access it. If you ran a query against that 5 billion, 7 billion row table and didn't do it just right, bring down the whole database, right? You create a production outage. Really just interesting looking back on that with all the tools that are available today, the technology landscape as it is today, really being able to analyze data and provide insights. We can do that like never before. And we were limited in those early days, but I think things have come light years from there.
Corey, it's great to learn about your background because you've been on the development side, but you've also been on the program and product sides. You've insight into both sides of things. Talk to us about the decision to make the switch then over to Bongo. And before doing so, actually explain who Bongo is as a business, who you are, what you do, mission of the organization, and then what brought you to join Bongo as the VP of product development.
Bongo is a video assessment and skills practice tool that's designed to operate asynchronously and operate inside different partner ecosystems. So to unpack that a little bit, some of the basics of Bongo are we give learners an opportunity to record a video of themselves practicing a presentation, practicing a sales pitch, demonstrating a skill of some sort, and then taking it through various workflows where they can provide their own self-assessment. It can be distributed out to different peers so they can provide some feedback and assessment as well, or to a mentor, a manager, instructor, depending on the environment that they're in. All of these are opportunities for the learner to get feedback from these sources. And then obviously, one of the things that we want to introduce was the idea of including auto assessments. So we have a tool that we call auto analysis, pretty straightforward name. But overall, what it is we take that video recording and we run it through some algorithms and actually provide feedback and scoring to the learner so they can get a real-time feel for how they're performing. If they choose, they can practice multiple times before they share this information with those peers and others. They can wait until they're ready. But think about things like assessing for filler words, use of filler words throughout a speech. What is their rate of speech throughout the whole conversation? How clear are they speaking? These are things that we can assess. And then in addition to that, if somebody goes through and sets it up as an administrator, we can configure various different key terms and phrases and concepts that we're going to look for throughout the video recording and know whether somebody is adhering to some of the right principles throughout that presentation. The reason we emphasize the AI side of it so emphatically is that we grew up in a higher ed world, and in the higher ed world, there is a very well-defined instructor role, right? The expectation of the instructor is they're going to grade things. As we've expanded and started seeing our usage dip more towards the corporate market, that's not always the case. For instance, if you have a sales manager who has 30 reps globally, and he wants them to practice their pitch on the new product release so they can go out and start having conversations with their customers. That doesn't effectively scale. Odds are that guy doesn't have the opportunity to watch all of those videos end to end. But what he can do is he can go out and look at the auto analysis results that we provide, both in the form of a transcript and a general report, but also with inline indications when a filler word's used, when a key term or concept is being discussed, when clarity is insufficient, or when the rate of speech spikes or dips. You can jump to those different parts of the video with our proprietary player, and it gives them a chance to really focus in on those key areas that either might be really positive in an area of focus or areas that might be somewhat problematic. So really the focus on AI for Bongo is how do we scale something that previously would have been unsustainable. Bongo in general operates with different workflows that all kind of flow into that concept of having automatic assessment, self-assessment, peer assessment, and instructor type assessment. Some of them are low stakes, like I mentioned, where you can practice, but we also have simulations that can follow scenarios where it's like a job interview, or it's like practicing objection handling when you're discussing a sales pitch to a client. Those are more high stakes scenarios, and we can take you through a workflow where the learner is only given 5 seconds, 3 seconds, whatever's configured to be able to respond, and then have to be able to think on their feet.
So it's a fascinating space, Corey, that you're operating in at Bongo, because it's the combination of EdTech but use of AI. Could you talk to us about some of the challenges in overcoming the hesitance around using AI-based assessments and how you guys at Bongo have combated that challenge?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is one of the key challenges that we face going forward. People love the idea, but then there's that little bit of hesitance to ask the question, is this AI reliable? And am I getting the right results? And we had a few different data points that we can work with that we want to continue to expand upon. We actually worked closely with a power user of ours in the higher ed space. And she actually has an article under IRB review right now, awaiting publication, but gave us the in general results. And it was very intriguing. You have three groups of learners, right? There's a control group, and then there was one that used Bongo without the AI piece and one that used it with the AI piece. And then these groups of learners were taken through materials, three different sets of materials that were of varying degrees of complexity. So I think that she was working in general with students and future educators. And so the initial was just about student behaviors, but the last one was it was getting into more of the neurological science behind learning factors, right? Much more complex material. And each of these three groups were just the group that went through and just read material and then were assessed, scored most low, as you might expect. Those who used Bongo, again, improvements, but not quite as much improvement as you saw when they used the AI engine. And the AI engine really required the learners to hold themselves accountable. When you actually see yourself using a lot of filler words to your speech, when you see your rate of speech spiking, you realize that maybe you don't understand this material quite as well as you thought you did. And so the tool provided them with the opportunity to really practice and really get insights into the areas to improve. But what I found most interesting about this particular study is as the materials became more complex, the delta between the three groups became more substantial. So really, for simple material, you can do a little bit of reading and you can present on it, and you might do okay on an assessment. But as you started getting into the complex material around the neurological aspects of learning, that material was complex. And by utilizing Bongo with the AI capabilities built into it, we saw a significant improvement over the group that simply focused on the reading or just the presentation side of things.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
Corey, I want to talk now about the evolution of AI, and particularly within Bongo, its evolution of your use of AI. Can you walk us through what the last 4 years have been like from when you first arrived to early developments of the product to its current form, and how you guys have implemented AI and stayed on top of all the changes within the AI space?
Sure. So really that first iteration of what we released for auto analysis was largely just focused on speech delivery and just relying on the transcript of the recording to provide some insights, to roll up information. So relatively simplistic. But some of what we've been able to do over time is once we had that feature turned on, it didn't matter if anybody even looked at it. What we did is we let it run, and then we're in a unique position coming from the higher ed world where we have over 3 million videos where we have automated assessment along with those three other forms of assessment that I was mentioning before. What do people think about themselves? What do their peers think about them? How are their instructors assessing them? And so we've utilized that data set to refine our algorithms around how we determine whether something is good or not, or in the acceptable range or not, and relying on that feedback that comes from instructors assessing people and tying it back to our AI algorithms and ensuring that they're learning in the most effective. So it's a really unique position we're in where we're able to provide that grounding to our AI engine based on our own data set. One of the other innovations we've made recently, which again, I don't know if it was really in a place for us to utilize, say 4 years ago, but just released this past spring, was a tool we called PhraseGen. I mentioned to you a little earlier about the concept of utilizing key terms and concepts to understand whether somebody was presenting adequately and hitting on those core concepts appropriately, demonstrating that skill appropriately, et cetera. And what we found though is the classic scenario where an administrator is faced with something that they think is a great idea and they don't know where to start. They're looking at this screen that says, hey, put in what are the key terms and concepts you want somebody to be reviewed on for their video recordings. And they were just drawn a blank slate. And so through the evolution of NLP libraries, what we've been able to do is incorporate something where we can take that off the table for those instructors. So you'll go out and grab your latest product release notes, if we're using that example from before, or maybe a transcript from the very best presentation or very best sales pitch from your top seller, pulling in a white paper, whatever might be appropriate, and we'll actually run it through our algorithms and provide you with a proposed set of key terms and concepts that you can utilize going forward. And we're already seeing a spike in increase in interest and utilization of that tool just since it was released, I think 3.5 months ago. And so we're trying to put people in a position where they don't have to do the heavy lifting. They can just have a general direction on where they want to take things. But through different evolutions in AI, we're able to more effectively provide them with what they need and not put them in a position where they need to come up with everything from scratch.
Corey, I'd love for you to take us behind the scenes and describe the culture and the environment and the AI team specifically at Bongo. How many people are involved in making this happen across data science, engineering, machine learning? What's a typical project look like? And what would it be like to be part of the team there day to day?
We are lean and mean, right? We're a small organization, and really with an overall development team of about 15 engineers, we'll see 6 or 7 rotating into the AI space or the analytics space at any given time. But it fluctuates, right? Anytime you're operating with a smaller team, one of the challenges of working for a smaller company is the brutal prioritization that takes place. So we really try to balance our investment into a few swim lanes around things like delighting customers. What are the current customers asking for? What are some of the common asks and improvements we want to make? But that innovation piece, obviously, is a whole nother swim lane we want to focus investment on. There's also opportunities to expand our customer base. And then like all companies, really, there's a focus on architectural foundation that needs to take place, right? All the beautiful visualizations around different data insights in a product. There's some heavy lifting that takes place under the covers to make sure that you've got an effective and scalable data lake where that data can be retrieved and then presented out to your end customers in a performant manner. So really what we do is we try to be fluid and respond to the latest in priorities coming from our sales organization, our customers themselves, as well as our own innovation roadmap that we want to make sure we're adhering to. And we're very passionate about protecting that piece because a lot of companies, you could get quickly caught up in the customer asks and requirements and just spend all your time doing these small tactical things. But really, we want to make sure we're allocating time to invest in our strategy around AI and analytics. I'd say we're more mature on the AI side of things, and analytics is an area where we have a big opportunity to utilize it more heavily with our customers and partners. We use it a great deal internally to help inform our decision making and how we operate as an organization. But I think that providing some of those valuable insights directly within the product are some of the things we're working towards and some of where I see the future going. The biggest thing that's the challenge for us that we want to focus our attention on in that arena is trying to correlate the data we have resident in Bongo with important business outcomes. And this is going to require some partnering with different customers or other organizations that can help us. So by running through this set of curriculum using Bongo video assignments, have your support engineers increase the number of support tickets they've processed, for example, or are the NPS scores going up for your customers? Is your close rate improving for salespeople who use the tool? So really for us, one of the next logical steps is to really start to coordinate with some of these outside entities that can really focus on measuring business KPIs as opposed to just strictly what resides in the Bongo product, so we can draw correlation there. Because I think that will really provide a lot of meat behind the message that we're trying to send, is that Bongo can be transformational when it comes to mastering your skills and being able to demonstrate competency for the critical skills you need to do the best job. I think we need some of those outside influences to be able to really prove that point.
Final question from me, Corey. When you look ahead at the roadmap for Bongo, the increase in investment of AI into ed tech, what are you most excited about for the next few years at Bongo and the potential for the product itself?
I really think that the potential of the product is transformational. Outside of the specifics of AI, it's really just trying to solve problems that people have been solving through face-to-face gatherings that are largely ineffective for a long time. Take, for example, like the item I threw out there about enabling a sales team on a new product release, right? You're going to try to have a meeting on it. Somebody's going to do a presentation from the product management team. They're going to share all the cool things about it. People are going to be multitasking while they're looking at it, and then they're going to walk away and 90% of what they heard is going to trickle out of their brain, right? So we want to really be in a spot where not only people can utilize the tool to make sure that they're learning, but also for data retention, right? So many things right now are geared towards a one-off event for training, for learning, for enablement. And the position people are left in is their retention suffers for it. What I'd love to see is the opportunity for people to utilize Bongo to really scale learning and to allow for ongoing retention of all the key information that they're learning. And when you look at AI and analytics as a factor of that, really those are enablers for that to happen, right? You're not going to be in a position where you can expect your sales leaders to review all these videos. We want to be community driven. We want to be AI driven and in a position where people can effectively utilize Bongo at high scale in their organization to really ensure mastery and competency of the skills that matter most to their company.
Corey, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us. Great to learn about your own background and your journey to what's led you to where you are today at Bongo. Bongo itself is a fascinating use of AI in the world of EdTech, which is an exciting field within itself. And it sounds like you guys really have carved out a niche in this market, and we're excited to see what you can accomplish in the months and years to come. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, JP. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.